Hello, everybody, and welcome to week 6 with the Oxford Energy Society. Today we've got Simbo talking from Solar Sister, speaking live from Nigeria. As always, if you have any questions, pop them in the comments box and we'll pick them up. Today will be a slightly shorter talk, followed by a question and answer at the end, so make sure you pop all your questions in the box. Thank you very much for being here today, Simbo. Okay.
Thank you, Izzy, and it's always a pleasure to speak about my work and speak about what I do. As Izzy mentioned, my name is Simbo Sojinrin, and I'm the country director for Solar Sister Nigeria. So I'm just going to dive straight into it and talk about the reason why, as an organization, we do what we do. So the very first, the key big challenge that we're trying to resolve is that of energy poverty. I can go straight into my slides now. So it's that of energy poverty. So energy poverty, as you know, I know I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but we would describe it or would define it as the lack of access to modern energy services here. And so for us specifically, we look at energy for electricity, household access to electricity, and also for cooking. And the size of the challenge is huge. For Sub-Saharan Africa, we can say about 600 million people have no access, means that they're not connected to their national grids. And if we go to businesses, we find that even businesses, up to 10 million businesses are affected by the lack of power. And when we now go to cooking, looking at energy for cooking, that number is even higher. It's 700 million people that have no access to modern cooking services and have to rely on a lot of harmful fumes or fuels to cook their meals. But I want to bring it specifically to Nigeria. So the next slide. How does energy poverty affect Nigeria? So Nigeria is the most populous Black nation. We have a population of about 200 million people. And 1 in 3 of those people lives in an area where there is no access to the grid. And if let's dig into that a little bit. So if we look at the rural areas, energy access drops to as low as 33%. The huge majority of the people that are dwelling, that are actually living in these communities, are women and girls. A lot of times, men have gone into the cities for a search of greener pastures. And so when you go into these rural areas, you find that it is populated mostly by women and girls. And we talked about energy for cooking earlier. We still find that 2/3 of the country is dependent on biomass for cooking. And what is this? Charcoal and firewood is the first go-to for cooking. Another angle I wanted to touch on was the health angle of this. So if we look at the highest killers of Nigerians, we find that diseases associated with indoor air pollution is the 3rd highest killer. Is following malaria and HIV/AIDS. And when you see that, I mean, we're talking pneumonia, diseases that affect the lungs and all of that. We find that a majority of that can be associated with the way we cook. And if you go into a lot of traditional homes, you find that there's what we call the black kitchen. So there's a lot of smoke in the way that we cook. So yes, I'll go to the next slide. And so why I was bringing out this energy poverty is because it is a gender issue, and I was referring to the data of women and girls that actually live in these rural areas. But you find that even the challenges associated with energy disproportionately affect women. So you find that a lot of women and girls spend a lot of their time, working on household chores, things that have to do with collecting fuel. So it's either firewood or charcoal. A lot of their time is spent around resolving some of those challenges that we have with energy. We've also seen a direct proportion of the girl child education being affected by this lifestyle. They're their ability to study is also lessened because we have to deal with the daytime illumination that is coming from the sun. Because if you go into a lot of these communities from 7 p.m., it's in pitch darkness. And so at that time, there's hardly any learning or reading going on. I mean, we have candles and paraffin lamps and kerosene lanterns that are used, but we find that there are a lot of challenges associated with this. And so in that regard, we find that there's a higher high school dropout rate for girls. And we find that girls and women are disadvantaged both educationally and economically. So it takes us to the next slide. So what is the solution? So at Solar Sister, we're saying, how can we turn this on its head? And we've identified that this is a gender issue. We've identified that there is energy poverty. How do we become part of the solution? And that is what Solar Sister is. So it's a woman-to-woman network for clean energy. So how do women not just be bearing the brunt of this challenge of energy, but are actually the drivers of providing energy solutions to their communities? And that is what Solar Sister is. So our big goal is to have a world powered by women entrepreneurs, having our entrepreneurs being at the forefront of delivering energy solutions to communities. But specifically, what we do is we provide this economic opportunity to women, mostly rural women, to be able to distribute a range of clean energy products. And that includes solar lamps, solar home systems, as well as clean cooking solutions. We also deliver training. So all the women who sign up to become Solar Sisters are put into sisterhood groups, and they have monthly coaching and ongoing training to help them with this new business, this clean energy business that they have decided to venture into. And then, of course, we work with the technology. So for the lights, we ensure that we are providing a list of quality verified lamps, so that every Solar Sister is identified with that quality and that technology. And we also do the same with clean cooking solutions as well, to ensure that the brand is associated with quality. And of course, we have the business support. So for the business support, we have every Solar Sister attached to a mentor and a coach that takes her through that journey of becoming a Solar Sister entrepreneur. So that is that would be what the inputs that we put into the organization. And as we say, when a woman has money, that money is spent towards the household, to the entire household. And so the benefits don't just stay with the woman. The benefits has a ripple effect towards the entire household. So we find that when households change to clean energy solutions, they save money, there's increased access to clean energy. We've seen the direct correlation with improved education, better health, connectivity. A lot of the solutions that we distribute can charge a mobile phone and keep people connected. And then there's also that link between safety, and when there's light or illumination, the community feels safer. Next slide. So yeah, and so for us, I was describing the range of products that we do distribute, and we recognize that there is an energy ladder. So for us, a lot of the solutions that we bring is that first light. So just that lamp that can replace your candle or your kerosene lantern or your paraffin lamp would be kind of the first touch or the first entry or the first interaction that people have with clean energy. And then from there, we expect that this graduates and people begin to get more used to the technology and beginning to have better access and cleaner access. And the same with the clean cook stoves as well. So we've started with more efficient stoves. So stoves that are using a third or half the charcoal that it would ordinarily have used. And the same with firewood as well. And so this is kind of the ladder that we expect that they would graduate into using something that is completely clean. And then from the lamps perspective, we have just the single lamps, and then up on the ladder, you have the portable lamps that have phone charging capability. Those have bigger batteries. And then we go on to the home systems that can do more than lighting, probably light multiple rooms and charge a few accessories, maybe your fan, television, and it begins to go into institutional kind of installations. Next slide. So yeah, I was talking about the impact of the entrepreneur, and in 2016 we did a study, an independent study, on our women entrepreneurs to really find out what is this impact that this business opportunity is creating for these women. So the very obvious one is income and autonomy. When you're involved in sales or entrepreneurship, you make money, and with money you become more autonomous. You can make more decisions and things like that. So that's really the obvious one. But we found that it wasn't just that, there was more to it. So the training that we provide was able to have the women have improved business skills. And I'll take us through a snapshot of the curriculum shortly. But we also found increased women's leadership. So women taking up new positions, more recognition, better communication skills. We found that there was an effect, a direct effect on the children's education, especially the girl child. So just that ability to be able to read in the evening or to read in the night, or just to have the extra hours to put into the schoolwork. We saw the dramatic change in the girl child education from the sample that was surveyed. We also saw business growth. So once the women come in, a lot of the trainings I get towards improved business skills, and this helps them grow their business. I talked about community safety earlier, and another key one is the sisterhood and support. So for every woman who joins as a solar sister, she joins into what we call a sisterhood group. And a sisterhood group is just a group of other solar sister entrepreneurs. And so she can benefit from this peer support. It's an avenue, yes, for the training, but also an avenue to share best practices, to share challenges, to share opportunities, and also just to fellowship with each other. So these are some of the impacts of becoming a solar sister entrepreneur. Next slide. So yes, I just wanted to, bring some of our entrepreneurs into the room and just share short stories about 3 different entrepreneurs from across Nigeria. So we have a range of we have entrepreneurs from different backgrounds, different parts of the country, and they all have their own individual stories and why being an entrepreneur is important to them. So for Nambet, for instance, she's a single mom of 5. She also has a farm, so she's involved in a seasonal trade. During the planting season, she's planting, and during the dry season, this is when she got involved with us, the solar sister, because ordinarily it would be months of just waiting for the harvest and just managing what she had from the old harvest. But with a business like Solar Sister, she's able to earn all year round. She's also able to now use things like fertilizers, improve not just her Solar Sister business, but also improve her farming, and that also has affected her ability to send her children to better schools. So that's just one story. And we have, other stories like Mrs. Abiola Ige. She's a teacher, and she's also been with us for a few years now, and extremely excited. So it's not just a solo business for her, but her children. She has children who are in secondary school who are also taking up this opportunity as well, and are also leading or being ambassadors in their different ways. And of course, we have a grandma, Eukaria. She's retired. She's at home, but this has now become an access for her, or an opportunity for her to make more money, to sell the lights. And she was one that gave us an excellent story of how just having that light was able to promote community safety and ward off a bunch of thieves who came to her community, and because there was light, they did not have access into her household. So I hope I've been able to really share and give you a snapshot of what we do at Solar Sister. And we do have offices in Nigeria and Tanzania here in Africa. We started in Uganda, and of course, the founder is from the US. So that, in a nutshell, is our organization. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Simbo. That was really interesting. So we've got a couple of questions to chat to you about. I mean, you answered a lot of things and gave us a really good snapshot of how you work in Nigeria and across Africa. So I was going to start with what do you think makes Solar Sister so successful?
I think it's the niche. I think it's the gender and energy focus, because I think for us it comes as a bundle package. We are very interested in clean energy access, but we want to do this, or we're doing this through improved women's economic empowerment. So its niche is together. It comes as that bundle package, and I think that has really helped, because if you go into communities, women are essentially the managers of energy in the home. And so having us women be in charge of the decision about how the food is cooked or how the home is lit, I think it's a direct fit. And yes, it has been able to build on the trust that the women have in the communities as being first users, able to use the products, make sure that these products fit, solve the challenges that they're having, and then they're able to use that word of mouth as well to talk to their neighbors and tell them exactly how the products work. So I think those are some of the things that really make this successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how important is it that you develop these communities sustainably so that you give them energy access via solar rather than, through electrification, connecting them to coal power plants and things?
Yeah, so for us, clean energy access for us too, it's key. Part of why we do this is, where I think I touched on it. I don't know if I touched on it, but we're also part of SDG 7. We're trying to help achieve SDG 7, which is affordable, clean energy for all. So that it's part of that drive where we are committed to ensuring that clean energy is the way that we go in communities. And we do, we know what fossil fuels, we see the damage. So if you go to some of the communities that we work in Nigeria, we can see firsthand the damage that fossil fuels have had on their communities. I'll give you an example of like the Niger Delta area of Nigeria, where we've had oil spillages, and just there's gas flaring. So there's a lot of environmental challenges which are affecting the livelihoods of the people in the community. So for us, we are promoting clean energy, a sustainable way, a renewable source. And we're doing this in a way that is accessible to everyone in the community.
Yeah, sounds great. So we've had our first YouTube question that says, what is the biggest challenge right now for Solar Sister or for the growth of solar energy in Nigeria and Tanzania in general?
So the biggest challenge, I mean, that changes. So recently, I mean, COVID, the pandemic kind of put another spanner in our wheel. So from March, Nigeria had the total lockdown. So we did have the total lockdown for about 2 to 3 months, and then we started doing this kind of phased reopening. But that really halted a lot of entrepreneurs' businesses, and it even the effect of China closing their shipping borders also trickled here. So we had supply challenges as well, and then we also had just the movement challenges, and the economy just like plummeting following that lockdown. So I think those three things hit us. We were creative and we have very resilient women. We were able to adapt some of our practices. So, for example, we changed our meetings to virtual meetings. We went back to the days of phone conferencing, so that we could still have the community of 5 to 7 entrepreneurs on one call and still do the trainings and make sure that was going. We got creative with shipping and how to get products to customers. We're able to adapt in some way and get out of it. But I think those three things really hit us, and that was the big challenge for us. And following on that, I think it also heightened the the bigger challenge, which is also manufacturing and production. So for us in Nigeria, for the clean cooking, yes, we do have local manufacturers, but for the solar lamps, they are all imported, and so it's all the challenges associated with that made this risk really challenging this period.
Yeah. So let's talk about the tech a little bit, if that's okay. So how do you choose the units that you sell? So you talked us through what your range, and is it important that the tech you sell is designed with the users in mind, or do you sort of go for something general that might one size fits all kind of thing?
Right. So first of all, we have some key alliances in the tech. So for the lighting system, we have an alliance with the um, with the Lighting Africa. So Lighting Africa is a arm of the World Bank that certifies solar products. So that is one of our key criteria, that all the products that we are distributing have the quality verification. But secondly, because of our interaction in the communities in Nigeria, we've been here now for 6 years. For a lot of the manufacturers, we provide that on the ground assessment of these lamps. So initially when we started, we had to pull from the pool of quality verified lamps. But over the years, we found that a lot of the versions have changed. So if we started with S1, we're on S2, we're on S3, and all those lamps are changing with inputs from the field and how it can be more useful, or how, from the feedback that they're getting from the on-the-ground team, they're using it to actually improve on the product. And so a lot of the products that we do distribute now are improved versions of the ones that we distributed 6 years ago. So yeah, we've done a few kind of human-centered design workshops, even just around our model and around the solutions that we do provide. And we always give feedback to our manufacturer. So that's kind of how we make that decision.
Yeah, that sounds good. So I also read on your website that the lights last 10 years. And so the ones you sold at the beginning of when you first started are probably reaching the end of that now. So what have you decided what happens when they've expired warranty, or is it just going to be, is there a recycling program, or is it just get rid of them?
So the lights actually are 3 to 5 years. A lot of the smaller lights are 3 to 5 years. So a lot of the ones that we sold in the first and second year are reaching the end of life. One of the things, because what we also do, our warranty process is actually a replacement process. And so even for faulty products, we also had lamps that had those the faulty products. And then we are also getting lamps that are reaching their end life. So we have agreements in place with the manufacturers for how to dispose of their e-waste. So it's one of the things that we signed at the beginning of this year to ensure, because what we do is we return them to the manufacturer, but knowing that from the manufacturer that they are recycling. So we've also been involved in some technician training drives that we've had. So we have a few entrepreneurs that can recycle, even though our warranty process is a replacement one. But for the end of life one, so the first thing is the ones that can be repaired and reused, and then the ones that can't are returned to the manufacturer. And then we have our policy in place that makes sure that the manufacturer is disposing of them responsibly. So that is what we've done in terms of our e-waste management policy so far. Yeah,
it sounds very cyclical. Yeah, that's good. So how important do you think it is that your entrepreneurs have other jobs as well as their solar sister, or does that really depend?
Right, how important? So I mean, the goal is that the solar sister opportunity is enough to sustain them, right? That is the goal. What we found in practice, we have entrepreneurs that have varied levels of engagement. So we have entrepreneurs that we call the superstars that are making way above minimum wage, and the revenues that they get from sales can cover their cost. But we do have a number of entrepreneurs that do this either as a side business or do this during their off season or do it sort of more casually. And so for those ones, so sometimes they're making below minimum wage and they would need to do other things to supplement their livelihood. But the idea and the design and the goal of Solar Sister is that this opportunity is enough for a woman to be able to meet her needs. So that's the goal. And we have women who we call superstars who are doing this and are doing this successfully.
So we've got a couple more questions coming now. The first one says, where do you see Solar Sister in 10 years' time? If you achieve a successful distribution of solar lamps and clean cook stoves, for instance, what might future roles for the organization entail?
Right. So 10 years, the person stretched it a little more than 5 years. Usually I look in 5 years. So 10 years is a little, outside of what I usually would have looked at. But for Nigeria, for instance, I mean, the goal is once we've achieved, if we're able to achieve everyone's sustainable energy for all, we have to evolve into, we have to evolve. But I think we still have that challenge in sight. I'm forecasting and predicting it for the next 5 years. For 10 years, I mean, not so far, but I still forecast us being relevant and extremely relevant because last year when they did a budget for what it will take to electrify Nigeria, and the amount was 3 times our national budget. So all the money we had. So just in seeing that, I knew that this problem wasn't going to end, at least in the near future. So I still see us being relevant in that near future. But even as an organization, we've started to evolve. So we started selling really small products, but we can see that we're moving towards microgrids, mini grids, bigger systems. So I can also see us evolving in that way. I can see. I think that's how I'd answer that. But yeah, we need to evolve. If we resolve sustainable energy for all, then we've hit that goal.
So along that line, do you think, is this small scale solutions the answer to energy problems in countries like Nigeria, or do you think they should pursue national electrification, or should it be like a balance of both?
Honestly, I think it's a balance of both. I think what we provide is creativity and innovation as a response to a challenge, right? So the ideal is that the country is electrified. That is the ideal, and I think that's my dream for Nigeria. That everywhere is electrified, everyone has modern clean energy, and that's the dream. What we are doing as a solution is putting that against reality and saying, okay, in the interim, why should people still be dying from things that, when there are available solutions that can avoid that, So, and that's what we're doing, providing that interim solution. So that would be that.
And we've got another question on YouTube that says, sorry, I missed part of the talk. What would you say that we could do in the UK to support empowerment of women in Africa regarding energy development?
I think it's, support organizations like ours that are underground at doing the work. I think that's one thing. And I mean, support is a range. So of course there's funding, which everyone thinks about when you say support, but there's a lot more that we are that we need, I would say, in the sector. So there's been quite a lot of mentoring and sharing and technical assistance also that it's going on, and that we are receiving a lot from countries like the UK as well to help catalyze the sector. So yeah, I think those are some of the things that that can be done to help move the sector forward.
Follow you on social media.
Yeah. I don't know if you can pull up the last slide. So yes, we are on social media. We are on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Yeah. and you do.
Okay, so another one from you. You already work on a national level across a couple of nations in Africa, but do you think this is a model you could take further to more parts of the world that aren't electrified? Like, do you think this is something that only works like in these kind of communities, or is it a rural, it could be taken elsewhere?
I think it can. I think our model, I mean, um, we've had almost replica models happen in Southeast Asia, for instance, in South America, I think. So there is opportunity to take our model to another context that is facing the same challenge and replicate. So it is open, and we've seen. I think in India we have something called solar Sahelis, which is essentially like just Solar Sister, like the model. And we've seen Solar Mamas. There are quite a number of different organizations that are doing something very similar, but essentially is using women as the drivers for energy solutions in communities where they're underserved or where there's no access. So yes, it definitely is something that can be replicated.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then so this probably sounds like a bit of a silly question, but in terms of gender equality and energy, once we've achieved electrification in Nigeria, and well, once all of these communities and all the women have equal energy access, what do you then think will be the next biggest problem in tackling gender equality across Nigeria?
Whew. I mean, that's a big one. And as I said, that's what we try to do both. We try to do it, we try to do it together. So while we're trying to resolve energy access, we're doing that with gender equality as well.
Do you think it works in the communities? Are the women equal when they're entrepreneurs?
I mean, so I would say it helps. I would say when women have more resources, and we've seen this go both ways. So we've seen them being more autonomous. We've seen the households thrive. We've seen that. We've recorded successes there. We've also seen cases where gender-based violence is heightened just because of I don't know whether it's jealousy or it's just the fear. There's this fear that once she has her own resources, then she might they lose control. So we've seen that from the gender space. We've seen that war as well, and so it is one that comes with caution. I mean, we try to do it together. We have some men engagement activities embedded in our activities to make sure that we're carrying the men along. We've been accused of being a cult, which is women together, and just explaining all those societal norms, and explaining to ensure that they really understand that when a woman has this resources, it's for the benefit of the entire household. So yes, so I would say it's both. But gender is one that has been, it's been there for a long time and is one that we continue to fight. And I've seen this show up across different cultures, across different countries. This inequality is like really widespread. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a big issue to tackle. Bit of a smaller one. Do you have any multi-generational solar sisters?
So right, I tried. I don't know if you saw what I did with the impact story. So I tried to pick 3 people from 3 different generations. They're not related, but yeah. But then yes, so we have younger women, students in universities that are doing the solar sister business as a side business. We have young mothers, we have grandmothers. Yes, we do have quite a big range of entrepreneurs. We have entrepreneurs whose kids have also taken up the opportunity as well. So yeah, I would say.
Really nice. Yeah. I think have we got any more questions? Well, unless we have any more questions, I think I might have run out there. You've answered everything I had to ask. I suppose the biggest question is, how do we get involved as like in energy? Well, Annan asked about how we support, but how do you get involved? How did you get involved in this kind of work?
Yeah, so from my background, I think I grew up in a feminist home. So my mom was a really, really strong African activist. And so I've always been very conscious about gender related things. But I also read environmental sciences and also had love for geography and the environment. So I've done quite a number of different roles. And when this opportunity came, I think I had like 3 different people forwarded to me and like, this role seemed perfect for you. And yeah, did the interviews 6 years ago, got in. It just perfectly aligns with 2 things that I'm very passionate about. So it's my my love for gender equality and my push for it. And I've done that, all through school, in every single role that I have done. And then there's the energy access bit, which is aligns with my passion on the environment and climate change. So for me, it was just those 2 things, and yeah, that's where the impact in those 2 areas for me is what gives me joy. How do you get involved? I mean, it's having programs like this, or supporting programs like this, but also even just lending the voice. There's still people out there that don't believe that climate change is real, or that don't believe in some of these things. So just reinforcing it, sharing the stories, knowing what impact these things can. Some people say, oh, it's a small light. What can a small light do? But I tell you, I've seen the transformation effect that small light has on a household, and how someone who's never seen the white, bright light, and what effect that does to that household. So it matters. Yeah, and just keep supporting the cause. I think that's what I'll say.
I think that is probably an excellent note to end today's talk on. Thank you very much for talking to us live from Nigeria. Technology is incredible. Yeah, you've been very insightful and very knowledgeable. So thank you very much for speaking today. I hope everyone's enjoyed it. Do let us know if you have any feedback. My email's on the website. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.